Hey, good evening, everybody. John Henry Soto here. Welcome to So Totally. I almost said the other thing. So Totally Weird Stuff. I really love that name, courtesy of James Savas, who's here with us, my co-host. You might remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a week and a half ago, we had a great conversation, and he's an incredible leader, mentor, knows a lot about business, but there's another side to our friendship. We're into like some weird stuff. If it's weird, if it's off the wall, we want to find out why, and we want to get to the bottom of things, and we want to ask questions, and that's one of the reasons we became such good friends. And then after the show last time, we were like, man, it'd be kind of fun to do something, and we talked about it, and I said, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
Sure.
So here we are, and it's the first thing. We really. I have a little bit of an outline about what I want to, how I want things to go. It's nothing really set yet. We're kind of going to feel it out and see how it goes. I thought we would do segments. Do an introduction about what we're going to talk about on that particular episode, and then maybe break down a little bit of why we're talking about these particular subjects, and then finally talk about the subjects. And then do some type of summation at the end where we kind of say, do your own research, get out there.
Exactly. Sure.
Figure stuff out because we need help.
Right.
So that's kind of like how I wanted to run with this.
Great.
But how you doing, Jamie?
Good. Great to be back, man. And you're right. We have some. Let's drink together.
Yeah. So it's been a fun. Fun drive when we were going up to upstate New York.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
Conversations, we always had were always like intriguing, and then we would always just try to come up with ideas of why that is, and my mind always goes to like the extreme. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
I don't like to
be.
That's
what the fun is, man.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be the cynic. There's too many of those around, and they're boring anyway, and nobody. They don't have any friends. So I was like, you know what? I want to be the eccentric. I want to be the eccentric guy who thinks really off the wall and kind of puts ideas out there.
Sure. I think you have to be. I mean, I think it's part of what makes, I think, good people, in my opinion, good to be around. Or they're not set in any one particular viewpoint. They're open-minded. They'll hear a good story. They'll put a spin on it. It's kind of like the idea of just stay open-minded and the fluidity of their thought and the communication. Someone who's very hard-headed on any subject, especially these days. It's hard to talk to them because they have their viewpoint and they won't change it. But yeah, me and you, and other good friends of mine, hopefully they'll join us tonight. It's always been great to have these open conversations about ideas, thoughts, and maybe no answers, maybe no answers at all, just speculation and maybes. But that's fun. That's what it's about. So.
Right, exactly. I love that too, and that's a good point about fun to be around because you're always, whenever you're around someone that's able to have it, you know what I mean. Just have it, and just be like, oh, okay, I get that. It's always a fun conversation and just somebody you kind of want to gravitate towards. And these shows, stuff like what we're doing right now, and I apologize to the viewers. The background got a little bit confused. I put it into my own thing, and anyway, I'm gonna fix it. It's gonna look a lot better in the future. But what part of the fun about putting something together like this is these shows kind of have been established already, right? I mean, this is not a new thing that what we're doing here. It's just our viewpoint now, and we want to put a little different twist on it, in my opinion, that we're actually going to come up with answers. Whether they're right or wrong, I'm going to actually come up with an answer of what I think.
I love it.
I'm going to answer the question.
Good.
And the History Channel, the Ancient Aliens, and all those shows that are, to me, I really love watching those shows because they really do illustrate unexplained things. And even though they don't necessarily some of them do, some of them take risks and say, this is what happened. And then this happened, and that's what happened, and this is what happened. The proof is right there, Everybody looks at them like they're crazy. And since everyone has been looking at me like I'm crazy for years and years, I'm like, let's jump in this direction.
Yeah, right. I think it's
So what what was your earliest interest? I'm gonna just do a little interview with you.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your earliest interest in this? Like, what happened to you as a child? Was it just Star Trek or Star Wars or something?
Well, there was a probe incident. Just kidding. There's no probe. It'd be a great kickoff, though. Let me tell you about when I was 14,
Can you imagine?
up in the woods, right? Interesting because I guess there was just a general interest in things that were not normal or not mainstream. I mean, I didn't have any incident, I didn't have any encounter, or I don't even have any good stories from way back then. But I remember Time Life had a series of books, like the hardcover books.
I know these.
80s somewhere, and it was and they showed a couple in commercial, and Mom, I love those. And I think it was about ghosts and goblins and about UFOs and about Bigfoot and maybe about a dozen of these. And it was the first time I ever got something, because something came in the mail to my name about something that I became interested. It was kind of more like that. And then I remember I did a seventh grade, I don't know, like to my class, like a seventh grade exhibit almost. I had to go over, we had to pick different subjects, and I picked Close Encounters, the movie, but they're actually, in the movie they talk about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? That's abduction, that's contact. But there is a first and second kind too. So I did this whole like quasi-scientific thing where I had a UFO, and this is first kind, and this is, whatever, I was 12 or 13, but it was cool, and I just, it became, no one made fun of me. It was kind of just like, all right, whatever. They ignored it, but it was different. It was unusual, and I always felt a little bit different, I guess, in general, just around my friends. So it just kind of worked. And since then, man, well, I got stories, Area 51 stories. We got stories about my buddies doing. We got stories, but that's how it started.
But that's definitely what we're gonna explore in the stories. And I think what we'll. As we're doing this, I'm kind of figuring things out. So one of the things that I was interested in is if I pick a subject, something that's always fascinated me, and then talk about it, your take on it, and then have you tell one of your stories. And that way we'd have a little bit of some kind of a organization. So Rosa is laughing because we are funny guys. And what's up, Matt?
Hello, Matt. I like that.
Matt is on board.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about Pumapunka.
Don't mispronounce that, man. There's a lot of
Punku. It's Punku, right? Yeah, you can't pronounce it, or else it will be off. YouTube will be like, you can't be talking like that.
You can't talk about Puma, whatever. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So anyway, I saw a thing on this, and it was probably the pyramids and all those things that you kind of like are amazed by it. They're so well documented, and there's so much information about them. But this was one of the first things that I saw that I was like, wait, what? Like it really made no sense. And it's actually it's in Bolivia, South America, and it's a very small area. It's not big, and there's two areas, right? There's one called Pumapunka, and then there's hold on, I wrote it down because I can never pronounce it. Tijuana or something like that. It's like it's right across. It's not far. It's actually literally probably walking.
Oh, the old ancient city. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now the what amazes me is that the technologies on the building.
Maybe Teotihuacan.
Yeah, I think that's Teotihuacan. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I spelled it out, but I still mispronounced it.
Yeah, no, they're long words.
Yeah. So it's all South America, right? Bolivia.
Yeah,
but
Bolivia. Yep.
So these two cities, what really amazed me was that the technologies of the building were so different.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like so different, and yet they were, completely incredible cities. I think, Sunny's on board.
Sunny, I hear you, brother.
And
listen,
yes.
we got Nazca lines, we got the 12th planet. We can go there whenever we're going there. We'll go there.
Yeah, exactly. We're definitely going to go to all that stuff. But I wanted to start with just a simple thing of like just a structure, because I think, when you have physical evidence, which is
Yep.
what that is, right?
Yes,
You have
sure.
physical evidence of something that's unexplained and it's being unearthed, and they're still digging. Apparently, they just found. Apparently they did a what do you call that? They flew over and they have these radars and these heat
Okay.
things, and they saw that there was like another huge area underneath, and it could be like a whole pyramid that goes up under this huge
Wow.
giant mountain. It's like this whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, so they're digging it out. They said it's going to take them about 50 years to dig out the whole thing. So I was like, nice. So they have new technologies that can actually shoot these sonars into the ground and really pick up the sound. It actually just measures everything and it tells you what's under there, and there's structures under there. So it's a much bigger place than we even anticipated. But I wanted to pick Puma, because I was so fascinated by the fact that not only the precision of the actual stonework, but the fact that it's pretty evident that it was destroyed or something happened. It didn't.
Can I give you my thought on it? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're here.
I looked at Puma Punku when I first saw it on the History Channel. My viewpoint of that was it was less of a city and more of where they started to build their building blocks. Literally, I looked at it more like a quarry, and then here they are building the pieces to the society, the pyramid,
and they move them over to
and then they went, and then how did it move? Another story. But I think some of it might have been more of like the dig site, or that's what it appears when you look at like how current day humans do that kind of stuff. There's a quarry, right? There's certain machinery around you. There's certain exposure of certain rocks and layers of the ground, and it looked a little bit like that to me, like something was being made there to then go and build it or use in a building here. Again, there might have been some structure. There are some structures there, like there's the overheads and stuff, but because you don't see a lot of other materials but these big exterior walls.
Right, there's no organization to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my thought on it. It's more of like they built it here and they shipped it off to maybe the city you're talking about. But that's what I think.
That's interesting. But the only thing about that is that the other city doesn't have any structures like this. You see, so the other city is very stone-like. It's very almost bricks. They got literally bricks on the other city. There's clay.
I'm talking about the one that you mentioned that is underground or something. I mean, I'm wondering if they're not. But
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Possibly. Maybe that's like a huge other. But they did actually get the bottom of it, and the bottom of it is almost identical to what's already there in the other city, not Puma. You assume that the rest of it is the same kind of material. What I think, I mean, that's actually a good analogy. I would accept that. Some of the other ones were a little bit, but here's what I'm thinking. There was a couple of things that people made. People that they had an idea of like molds, right? Somebody said that you can make that. It could be cement. It could be a type of cement. It could be all the materials put together. They put them into these molds that they carved out, and then these stones came out. How they lifted these things, how they moved them, we don't know. But I always think that a lot of this stuff was done with sound. People don't talk about sound too much, Sound technology, man. You can move things, you can carve things out, and because now here's where I go a little, where people then think I'm nuts for years, right? And that's why I'm so happy I'm here.
Sure.
But advanced societies, advanced life forms that have visited this planet, which has been proven pretty much, in my opinion, we already know that there's stuff going on, and it's happening now, even as we speak. But something happened a long time ago, and with the technology that they have, what I'm thinking that they did, and I'm almost 100% positive that it was like this. It was just like a computer, just like we have software where we type in a software, and that software creates a thing, right? It creates a Facebook. It creates
3D printers.
Yeah. It creates 3D. Yeah, exactly. They have this really complicated algorithm that can, and it does it with sound. It actually you can maneuver, you can shape with sound, and if you have the science, and which I don't even think I wouldn't even say we don't have it. We might actually do have it now. It's just not really being utilized, or the technology hasn't reached the levels of building something like that. But it's the only logical way that you can move a stone that weighs, what it's, 1,000 tons. They didn't do it with, it wasn't slaves pulling these rocks miles and miles on top of, on top, what would they say? On top of petrified wood.
Right. And they rolled it. Yeah, right.
They rolled it. I was just like, that is so ridiculous. And then they have them like going up with this like scaffolding around it. He goes, yeah, and then they just went around. And it makes no sense. Anyway, that's my my take on how they did that, and a lot of the precision work. The lines, the thin lines where
you cut the paper between it. You're right. Yeah.
It's so thin lines that they cut out with like little holes in between them, like little perfect holes in between them, perfectly spaced out and everything. With the technology that they had back then, you could not do that. And
100%, sure.
And the people that were there, the apparently the Incas that were there at the time, the people that wait, hold on. I got this guy's name. This guy, Pedro, that guy, he was one of those conqueror guys, conquistadores.
Okay.
His name is Pedro Sidra de Leon, right? Okay. So this dude found them, and he was looking for something else, actually, right? He was looking for a capital city of some place, and he found this place. He found these stones. The Inca people that were there told him that these were actually, that they didn't make it, and that they were actually made by very, very large men. And he said, they also said that they were made overnight. No, it was made. We went to sleep, and in the morning they built it, and then they destroyed it because they wouldn't house one of their leaders, and they got upset and they destroyed it. Now, this is a story that they told to this to Pedro. And so, they said that there were these really big men that built it, and like in my case, that would be a guy who's like 5'10". So
really tall guy.
Right. So I thought that was interesting because that's a story that's been, brought down. And one thing about the Incas and even just like the I like to say Native Americans, because that expression was kind of created to describe, that was a governmental name that was given to the Indians. But those tribes that were here already, they really tell stories pretty accurate. They keep their stories. If you look at some of the history of these tribes, they got stories going on thousands of years, and it's important that they keep the stories exactly the way they told them, and they teach their kids how to tell these stories exactly. So when you hear these stories like this from the Incas, and you have to kind of wonder, like, what went on there? Who were these big guys? The Globetrotters came in and built this thing, and then just left the next day and got pissed off for whatever reason. I do think that there was some destruction going on, because a lot of it doesn't look like decay. A lot of it looks cracked. It looks like there's stones that are cracked, that are falling over. Now it may have been something like a quarry of some type but something happened where there was some type of a force on some of these places. Now, my last point.
Go ahead.
For the molds, if there are molds, if you look really closely at the stones, and I would love to visit them at some point in my life, but if you look really closely at the stones, there's little tiny holes.
Yes, that's right.
Lots of tiny little holes. Now, that's a clear indication of air getting in when something is drying. It's like that when you're doing any kind of mold work, or even a cement, right? That's why you have to really, really move cement a lot, because it'll get holes and then it'll crack. But if you look at some of the stones, that's how they cracked. Yeah. So it could have been the same. It could have been a mold, a huge giant mold, and they were moved with some type of technology that we're not familiar with. So anyway, that's my take on that part of the world. I love this stuff, and I think there was a big war. Mm-hmm. I think they just decided to leave, and before they, as they were pushed out, because the Incas said that they were actually pushed out themselves because of the war. They just destroyed what was there. And even if you go to the other city, which I hate that I can't pronounce it. Say it again. It's my Spanish. Yeah, and it's South America, which I should have the tongue for South America. What the hell?
Language. I don't think it's like,
I know, but it's got to say something. Also, another thing that was interesting was that it's 12,000 elevations, like 12,600 feet or something, and it's very hard to grow food there. So, how they even grew food was like another, unless again, it's just another. For me, it's not a man-made man. It's just not. It's just. Sonny says he has an image he'd like to share. How can you do that? Yeah, share it. Send it to email it to me real quick. I'll just post it. So, go ahead, Jamie. That was my little.
No, you're right. That was good. Let me, I got a good buddy, Todd. Maybe he'll join us if he's able to.
Yeah, he messaged me. I sent him the link. He's supposed to come on.
Oh, good. So one thing, just regarding sound and sound waves. Well, two things. One thing I want to mention is you have to get in the heads of any ancient peoples. I think what's funny is you mentioned how they built the pyramids, right? With the wheels and all that stuff, and the cranes, and I think that's trying to fit in an ancient technology into how we think now. Like it's like us going back engineering. Well, if we can do this, they must have done it this way. Like there's an assumption that it had to follow a linear line from cavemen to now, and there was nothing in between. That's what I think is goofball. Is that two things we're not doing? We're not acknowledging other individuals. You want to put the picture up?
Yeah, actually, he's sent it to me, but he's texted to me, so I gotta send it to myself.
Very cool.
Go ahead, keep going.
Okay. So that we have there. So I think what's lacking is that we don't acknowledge that there was maybe other help, like you're saying, right from off planet, but also that the people back then might not have been like your typical tribal individual. Like we're assuming that everyone that lived back then in Atlantis, which another talk, in Pumapunku, were like some kind of, they didn't have very much. They went around the business. They had their guard, like that they didn't.
Very primitive, as if
they were primitive. Exactly. Thank you. That's the word.
Yeah.
But we assume that they were. But again, we're thinking linearly. Like it had to go from primitive to current. I'm saying that because you have this guy. Sound frequency, sound waves. Absolutely. There's this cave, and this is worth anybody on the call googling. There's this massive cave of crystals in Mexico. Let me see if I can find out where it is. With massive, we're talking, I don't know, 20 feet long and the girth of about, I don't know, a tree trunk. Like these massive underground caves were discovered. Oh, and NICA, N-A-I-C-A, Mexico. And one of the oddest things about them, regarding sound, okay, touching on sound, is that they hum. That NASA had a report out that there was a living organism inside this crystal, some little microbe thing, I forget the name of it. But more importantly, that they had audio, this is NASA, audio of just the environment. And there is this low hum, as if the crystals just kind of have a sound going on. There's nothing living and it's way below the surface. So there's that, right? That piece, I look at it like connect the dots. Data. All right, well, so what? Then you have this guy. Shut me up when you want to show the picture. I'll shut up.
No. You go ahead.
Yeah, totally, Sonny. You're right. Then you have this guy. This is worth checking out if you don't know. Edward Leeds Skalnin. Again, the funky word. He's Latvian American. Lived in the late 1800s. Leeds, Leedskalnin. Edward Leeds Skalnin. Now, this guy, he built down, I think it's near Miami somewhere, Miami-Dade County, what's called the Coral Castle. And this is a guy who figured out how to use sound to move and manipulate rock. He found out what frequency it took. I think it's all limestone down there. But he was doing that. This guy had the technology. I forget the backstory. It's worth another call, how he came to this technology. But they discovered these devices on his property after he passed away that harmonized with rock. They didn't know how to use it. They don't fully understand it. This was, again, about 20 years ago. But he had the technology. He said that he built his coral castle, limestone mini city, this way, with sound resonating, certain frequency. Todd Jones, it's completely how he rolled, this guy. So anyway, he's worth checking out because he acknowledges fully what you're saying, sound, the use of sound and frequency. And then one last thing about sound to acknowledge what you said is there's something, it's a bit more of like I don't know what you call new agey, I guess, but there's a frequency of 110 to 112 megahertz. It's a very ominous kind of low hum sound. And apparently, physiologically in the human brain, that frequency, that range of frequency, does something whether it enlightens you, whether it does something to spiritually, who knows. The point is, again, it's all about sound and frequency. And there's something to this. There's something to these cultures and these people, back on the track a little further, that use sound to shape, manipulate, move, resonate. Imagine this: if you can figure out at what frequency, it's simple science, for God's sake. What frequency made something, not just, you can break a glass with certain level sound, right? Right. So why can't you break rock with it too? Then that's assumed. So if you can break rock, then what's a degree or frequency below that in which it's moving with enough speed that it's a little bit lighter, because you're moving the atoms and the particles around in that piece of material to the point where it would be lighter maybe to pick up. So anyway, I can speculate all day. I'm not a scientist, but like those things, the sound frequency and Todd, Edward Leedskallen is a guy that you turned me on to. But this guy did it, and he was talking all about it, and his story is great. But it was all about manipulating rocks and moving things with sound.
I did see that story of that. That was what gave me the sound idea, and they were talking a lot about sound during that episode. And it's really, I say sound, but it's not really sound. It's frequencies, because we may not hear it. A sound is something and it may be like a frequency or a vibration.
Exactly. And Sonny, a good point. There was the loud horn sounded. I forget what the story was in the Bible.
That's right.
It broke down the wall of the city.
That's
right.
It was
sound that they used to break down this wall back then. Thank you, Babylon, Sonny. And also, in current day, I know that the military has tested, I'm certain about this, sound weapons.
Right.
Knock people off their geezer, right? And heat weapons and microwave weapons. So it's all these different frequency use in different ways. It's completely terrific.
These ingredients, hey Todd, very good job on building the basics. One thing I would like to say is that they may have been Earthman, but the line, because the Earth is so much older than it is coming. So, and it's like what Sonny said earlier. It's like civilizations have been, were created and destroyed over and over and over. It's just we're I think that our current just the viewpoint of the overall humanity is just so arrogant. It's like
100%.
We just think that it's like, well, it's just us, and then everything else, everyone before us was dumb, and they're just using sticks, and they're not realizing that there was probably a whole huge civilization. Not probably, there were huge civilizations that lived and died somehow. They either war or whatever, and some of them are even still around. So
to that, John. I'll have to cut you off so much. There's this great story, and I don't know where it was, and I will find out the source of this. You can probably Google it. You can green glass or glass in the Sahara Desert. There's a story about 10 years ago. I found it. I don't know who ran it. Something out of Europe, I think, an agency over there. But they found glass. Maybe I want to say green. I don't know why I want to say green. Green glass in the deserts in Africa, in the Sahara Desert. And on such a scale, like this is many, many feet below the ground, or the top layer of sand. And the only explanation at the time, which makes no sense if you assume that tribal men came and then we have today, and nothing happened, that it was a nuclear incident that created such a swath of land in glass? Because what would be able to superheat sand like that at one time in a broad scale? So like something else you can Google is Sahara Desert glass. But again, it's the arrogant assumption that we are at our apex now, and that any earlier civilization could not have built the pyramids, could not have handled this stuff, because they must have been like one step shy of a monkey. Like
that's where the arrogance comes in of these experts that go out there, and these archaeologists that go out there with the training, thinking that they've only gone back. That's the thing, when they study in school, right? They go back and they learn about as far back as they can go, as their minds can get them to be aware enough to even go there, to think about, to assume. They can't go anywhere other than what there, and that's where it was, And so when you start telling them, well, civilizations, other planets, visitations, all the stuff in the pyramids, in the pyramids, right? There's like all these paintings in the pyramids of people pointing up to like these huge discs.
Sure. What is that? Yeah.
Why would they? What, are they playing frisbee? You saying catch the enemy? Well, what do you think they're pointing at?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
100%, Sonny. It's not possible if you follow this linear line of it happened in a certain
exactly.
sequence. 100%.
So I want to show this picture real quickly. So Sonny, explain this. I mean, it's exactly what we were talking about. Wait, is this right? I think this is it. Maybe this is it. I don't know if that's it. Can you see it?
It's loading. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a big. Yeah, they're like molding. I guess making molds. I guess. So is this like an ancient? I'm assuming this is an ancient photo.
Ritual or something or whatever.
Or something, or this picture itself was taken from somewhere, interesting.
It just reminded me of something. 29 million years ago, something here. Yeah, I just said. Okay, there you go. The Libyan desert. Sorry.
Right. That's right.
But completely, man, completely. What this picture reminds me of a story where it was run by Reuters. R-U.
All right. Yeah.
And 10 years, you can find it. Talked about blonde, blue-eyed people. Your blonde, blue-eyed human, and it talks about that genetically they traced that body type back.
Mm-hmm.
Not completely. Yeah, I want to go, Sonny. We can talk all day about the Nephilim and all that for sure, and we will. The giants and the skulls found and all that. But let me make this one point and then I'll shut up. But they traced, like, genealogists, scientists, traced back the source of the blonde, blue-eyed person, which was it's a pigment issue, is what that is, right? Blue eyes and blonde hair is a pigment issue.
Yeah.
To a single individual that lived around 10,000 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
A single individual that lived 10,000 years. So who was this? Okay, party, landing. I mean, how else? I mean, or completely either way, whether it was like landed and got off the plane, or whether it was genetic playing around and whoops, no genes here or whatever. But like that's exactly. I mean, again, on the picture before, the experimentation of humans, the fact that I'll give you my certainty here. They will never find missing links. They will speculate about it. They will never find a creature, a humanoid, that fully answers the question, apes to current man, because it didn't exist, because they were destroyed.
Right.
Sorry.
And this is the arrogance of the education. Like it's also a control mechanism. Yeah. If you thought for a second that there was greater technology out there in space or civilizations or planets with amazing technology, you'd have a different viewpoint of how to live. You'd have but if you thought that you descended from
right.
sticks and if you thought that that's what you were, you're much easier to control and be like, well, we have evolved now, but you still can't do certain things, and it just really minimizes even just our abilities, you know.
And it's interesting because, and I will get zero political on these talks, but it's interesting that you have, if somebody wanted to keep you less mindful of something, they would feed you from birth a story about how you're limited, you're small, you're incapable, you only live one time, etc., etc. That would be the agenda. Because why would they let you think outside the box? Why would they let you think you've been around? Why would they let you think that we're not the only ones around?
Right.
It's very insular. It's a very insular viewpoint, and it keeps you, okay, well, if that's true, boss people, then I guess that's true, and I won't question that, and that's what the ruler says. The ruler says this.
Yeah.
But that's
now, didn't again, I don't want to get too much into like, I mean, not politics, but like religion or something. But I do know that Christianity had the viewpoint of reincarnation.
Yep.
It was part of the studies, you know, and somewhere along the line, one of the popes, I can't remember which one it was, there was a time when there were two popes. Remember, it was like,
well, there was a council. It might have been the same thing. The Council of Nicaea was like a council of the Christian bishops and important, and they decided some things. And that, anyway, go ahead.
Right, and they decided that that it would be really difficult to control. Again, it's a control thing, to control man. If there was no, if they thought, well, we're coming back anyway, I could do whatever I want.
Right,
party, I'm gonna come back. So that was actually an
sure,
and that's all documented pretty well. I mean, it's not like that isn't any
making that.
No,
right. No, 100%. Let me say one thing about that real quick, John. The Old Testament, right? The Quran talks about the Quran. No, not the Quran. The Old Testament talks about when the definition or the word they use for God, right? When you actually have someone who speaks Hebrew translate that word, and I'm not changing the word, it is a plural word. In other words, I have many friends that speak Hebrew, and when you ask them the word for God in their Bible, their text, and you have them, what does that actually mean in your language? It goes, it means gods. It's a plural word. It's like Dios, but whatever. What would the plural be of Dios, by the way?
Dios. It's so like we're so like not even able to even think that way.
No. But it was. I'll find the word. I'll find the word out. But I was speaking to a couple of friends of mine. I'm like, do me a favor, tell me what this means. And they're like, oh, it means gods. It means gods. Like, I didn't make it up. It's your word. But it's anyway. The data is there. The data is there. It was there. It was changed and moved. And
it was moved purposely to confuse. And again, there's a lot of power in thinking that you're part of a much bigger universe. There's a lot of it, and just that knowingness alone can really increase a person's reach to want to do better and to want to reach more and to be a better person. Just having that viewpoint and understanding that. So that has to be, we can't have that, so that's one of the reasons why a lot of this stuff is occluded. The word, so I don't give it, Elohim, Elohim, like Elohim. Elohim is how you pronounce it. And Elohim means either one or plural. So just data, like there's actual datum. So anyway. Yep. Todd just putting that Elohim, plural.
Yep. Thanks, brother.
Cool. So he says the sound idea is spot on. There is an inventor that made a platform that is levitated by sound. Oh yeah, that's the guy you were talking about. And noticed sound and found that a bee's wings move at the same rate, which answers the old physics questions of how do bees fly, since technically their body is so heavy for their wings. That's true, right? There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome, Todd. Oh man. So wow, now we're both like stunned.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
That's so cool.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, when you think about these, because what I want about this platform and this thing that we're doing here, I want to, because you can go all over the place as far as like um, religion and that whole part of it, and I want to try to keep it into the mystery, right?
Sure.
So one of the things that fascinates me, and probably you as well, is close encounters of the first and second kind, which people have had, right? So go over those two. Pretend you're like in the seventh grade and you're doing your report. So
Yes. I have to remember all that.
so the first one was obviously seeing something. Like, what the hell?
There's 5 kinds. I know that. Let me see what I can find.
Yeah, my computer is really slow, man.
I think one is. I think it's just a gradient. One is seeing it. One is they land, but there's no contact. One is contact. I'm pretty sure it just scales up like that.
That makes sense, because I mean, close encounters of the third kind was contact, right?
And shook hands or whatever, right? That the music and the whole thing happened. I forget the 4th and 5th, but you want to hear UFO stories now? Or you want to stick to like civilizations?
Yeah.
Another one to check out, which is aligned with what you're saying too. In Peru, you have the Nazca lines, right?
Right.
Which are another whole talk. You have the city there. I don't know if it's even a city or just like a location. And I'm not going to pretend to pronounce this. It's near Cusco, Peru. And Saqsaywaman. Sacsayhuaman, something like that. And it is very similar to the other one you mentioned, Pupunku, because not in the grandeur of it or the meticulousness of the stones in these H's and these squares, but the rocks are all different shapes, but they fit together perfectly.
Almost,
right? And again,
they're molded, almost.
Molded, and you can't fit paper through them either. So like they're so tight, they're so perfectly touching and
yeah, and they're all different. It's impossible to find stones that just have it. Oh, look, this one fits perfect right in this one.
Right, exactly.
And again, that would be one of those. That could be one of those frequencies again that just kind of fuses everything together in this way. I mean, it makes you wonder why didn't they just make it more straight? But I mean, if they can actually manipulate it, or maybe they didn't have the high end machine to do it. They had a lower end from Walmart.
Model 1 and not the Model 2.
They didn't have the one that built the Punka ones, but and again, I mean, you can go back to the pyramids, which is probably the most famous of thing spoken about. And when you walk up to the pyramid, I've never been there, but I've seen so many people that have gone there and videos and stuff. Everything is so tight. It's perfectly, and some of these stones are like thousands of tons heavy to try to move them. And another thing that they mentioned, and the reason why we're throwing all this out is because eventually we're going to actually be more specific on stuff. But we want to kind of give an introduction of like all the things, so everybody knows this is where we're going with this. We throw everything out there, but eventually we're going to have a little bit more structure as far as like what we're going to actually talk about, right? But I want to talk about the pyramids because the material that actually the pyramids were made out of weren't even there, right? They were like miles away, so they had to somehow bring that material, here and so
up and down, the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah. So the mysteries are not that mysterious when you have to think out of Earth. You have to think out of what we know. Forget this history that we learned, and forget the last whatever years that thousands of years that they've said that we've been here. And if you put that aside and you say, okay, let's just open up our minds to think of the fact that there might have been something else going on here 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. Something else was going on here, and the proof is evident. I mean, the dark side of the moon alone will tell you,
for sure. We can go.
That's another show. I mean, the stuff that's on that side is like, I mean,
We got to go to space. We can go over. We can talk about Mars and the Moon all day.
All day. Yeah, all day. So I think what we'll do is now I think it's sort of like I said, the introduction, and we're throwing out a lot of things, but we're really going to go more deeper into each one of them. The whole thing with the pyramids, I still believe that had to do with that frequencies and what Todd was mentioning.
Can I give you a little data from that?
Yeah.
So in the pyramids, you have these small canals or tunnels or the vents almost, or I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
But they're not. But they go from the outside near the top. The angles down or straight down, and what they apparently line up with is where the pharaoh was placed or buried.
Right.
They apparently go straight down to. I've even heard they line up specifically with where the head would have been. That I can't confirm, but I do know that they do go down to the chamber at the bottom. I know, but every pyramid, I know that the Giza the Giza pyramid, right? Do that. So one thing too, there's data in the Book of the Dead, which is an amazing book. If you have time, and these days you might have time to read it. That's good. I want to talk about Todd too, but it aligns with the head. Now, what is the significance of, again, energy waves, the head of a pharaoh, and so on? It needs to make some sense. And in the Book of the Dead, it talks about Egyptian Book of the Dead. It talks about the pineal gland, right? It's a very, very tiny little gland in the back here in current humans. But it talks about that there was something to the effect of the pharaoh in that chamber with those tunnels pointed at his head that affected that part of the body. So then you wonder, why would anybody care? So either who wanted the data up there and they wanted to, I don't know, or who wanted to zap the guy that way, I don't know. Right. We don't know what it is, but there's a lot more to do than just a big triangular object in the sand. A communication device, a landing strip. We can talk all day about these things, but that's another datum for you, is that idea that in the Book of the Dead, it talks about the pharaohs had godlike powers. And they were, in some studies, Sonny, they were larger too, the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. So, all of this together, anyway, it paints a different picture.
And weren't there also proof of their heads were just much bigger than our current, like they just had this elongated, if you look at a lot of the photos, they had this, where you think of that gland actually being a lot bigger than ours and can do a lot more, because there is something to that, Funny enough, doesn't fluoride actually like damage that part of the...
Yeah, you can just Google what affects your pineal gland. Fluoride, one of the major things. There you go. Fluoride in the water.
Yeah, put it in the water. Wow. Let me see. Todd said something here. The golden faces of Egypt could only have been done by electroplating. It would have been hard to get. Wow. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, they were gold. They were golden.
They were gold. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
No pharaoh buried in the Great Pyramids. It was for a spirit, not the body. Oh.
The canals. The
canal. Yeah. So I saw somewhere also where they had, because there was no light in there in some of the chambers, it was pitch dark, and that they had some idea that there was this liquid that can go down and it could ignite and light the pyramid from inside. Yeah, I saw this whole thing, and it was like and they kind of like came up with the idea because the ground was just a little bit different than there was some other kind of a chemical, something that was on the ground that was not anywhere else. So they're saying that it was something that almost like a large lantern of some type.
Yeah, there's something, I don't know about the liquid part, but there was an episode where they were talking about hieroglyphs or pictures on this. I don't know if it was in a pyramid or maybe just an old settlement or an old city, but it had pictures on the wall of they look like elongated light bulbs almost. Wow. And then they did an experiment with copper and I think maybe rubber, and they were able to reproduce what it looked like in current day with just like some copper, I think, wires and maybe salt water. It was salt water and copper, I think. The reaction did something and illuminated, but that makes total sense. Yeah.
So Aaron says, "What's up, James?"
What's up, Aaron?
So, um, so okay, so that's another thing that we definitely want to talk. We want to talk about the moon. We're going to get into
Off planet for sure. Definitely off planet stuff.
the moon and Mars. Yeah, definitely off planet stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of the off planet stuff will explain a lot of the on planet stuff. The Great Pyramids use the technology talked about that. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, you have the fact that it lines up with a certain constellation, and why does it line up with the constellation, and who would have been high enough to see that it lined up? You know, I mean, off-world
Right.
stuff.
Right. That's another thing that always the arrogance always upsets me. You know, the idea that that they can build these things. They go, they were messed. They were a mess. You hear them on these shows. They were master builders. They just knew exactly where things are. And when you go on, I'm saying no, but how did they know that from above that it aligned perfectly to
Right.
who got up there? They had a large ladder, really big ladder, and so that stuff like that is always like the things that they just don't want to. They don't even talk about it.
Nope.
I was just watching a documentary on something where these conversations don't even get brought up. Like if you can't even bring them up because they're like, well, no, we don't talk about that.
Nope.
It's like it's just. So hold on one second. Love.
Yeah, sure. All
the love the punny name.
Punny is a fun punny. The so totally weird stuff. The hollow moon. Again, different episode, but Mars, Martian pyramids, Martian cities, dark side of the moon, campfires found down there, UFO. My goodness, yeah, hollow moon is a space station. We can
right. Well, the thing about all the stuff there that we've talked about this evening is not only that they're just weird stuff that we like, but it's also a lot of it can be explained. It's just that you need to have you need to open up your reality. You need to kind of like not think that we were just we came out of caves and that we suddenly we learned fire and all those things. If you push that aside and you start thinking to yourself much bigger and possibilities that are just even crazy sounding, but if you really go there, then a lot of this stuff is really like almost pretty simple to explain. I mean, like what Todd said, or everything that Todd said, and Todd has to come on actually on the show.
Absolutely.
I'm inviting you on this for next time. You have to be here.
For sure.
Because I know he's gotten really, he just has the data and he has a lot of the facts and stuff. And, I have the interest and I'll read about it and stuff like that. But, with family and all the other stuff, it's like I can't dive into it as much. And I know he's really, really great with all that. So we'd love to have him on. But James, what do you think is going to happen? Are we in a better place now to accept this than we were 50 years ago?
Better place what? You mean open-mindedness?
Well, aliens, for instance. With all the TV shows and all the...
I'm going to read this for a second because it's apropos.
Okay.
This is CNN. Yesterday? 2 days ago. Pentagon to launch task force to investigate UFO sightings. I'll read the first line. Washington, CNN. The Pentagon is forming a new task force to investigate UFOs that have been observed by U.S. military aircraft, according to 2 defense officials. The fact that the U.S. government is acknowledging unidentified objects and acknowledging that they were viewed by credible sources, being the military, right? Their own guys and girls, women, men. I don't know, man. I think that's a big deal. And I'll tell you this: you asked me where we comparing 50 years ago. The Pope Francis, I think it was Pope Francis. I want to say 5 years ago. You can find it out. He was asked about, well, what if there are other species, other aliens out there? What is that? How do we fit into this whole story, the Bible and creation? And he said something. I'm not even going to try to paraphrase it, but something about it does not affect the stories you're aware of, and that this is more, God's creatures are a bit more proliferated than just on one planet, or something like that. But but why would he even acknowledge that too? Right. The fact that we're acknowledging this as a reality, as a current 2020 humanoid reality, not as a problem, as a reality, as a something's going on, let's acknowledge it. That's a big deal, you know. And I've been waiting 10, 20 years ago. I was, you know, you'd read stories about one day, like, and it'll never happen. They'll be too scared to let it be known. But then whistleblowers and everything else aside, CNN just ran this article 2 days ago. So I think if 2020 could get any worse or crazier, maybe we'll just wind up with visitation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, my goodness.
The thing that I get worried about when the government is getting involved like this is the fact that, and it's also on CNN, is that, you know, they have technology now. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the Pope footage where he disappeared?
No.
So you've heard of what do you call oh my God, I forgot the name. Remember Star Wars arts when the Princess Leia came out? Your only hope. Help it. What's that thing called?
Yeah, the hologram.
Hologram. Jesus. So hologram technology has advanced tremendously. If you go to Vegas, you can actually see Elvis Presley on stage. You could see Sinatra on stage. Literally, they'll come out. They'll say, you know, and it's this really weird, crazy kind of thing. So I get worried because the other day it was on the news. You could find it somewhere. It was not really on the news. It was on, like, you know, it was reported by people. Thousands of people outside, and the Pope is like out on the thing. He walks in and he vanishes before he goes all the way in. He disappears, and it's like on footage. And everybody's like, people were like filming him, and they were like, "What the?" And it's not reported anywhere. But he got to find it. He just vanished, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" I tried to find more information on it, but apparently it just kind of went away. Other than the ones that actually filmed it, you know, on their phone and posted it and stuff. So it's out there, but it was the weirdest thing. So things like that sometimes scare me, that they're saying this, because then, you know, they can just put a hologram up of a ship landing somewhere and freak out everybody, and then suddenly everything changes. And what side is actually controlling that? You know, it's whatever side, you know. So things like that always scare me. So when CNN says something like that, I don't care about it, and I also don't care that the government is doing anything. Because if aliens want to come down, they're not going to go through CNN. You know, they're not going to go. You know what I mean? They're just going to land. You know what I mean? And it's going to be like on a Tuesday afternoon around 4:15. They're just going to come down. They don't know. They don't have any. They don't know that it's almost time for me to clock out. You know, they don't care. So wait, I have some stuff here that I want to just acknowledge people. So Matt says, "Oh yeah, the guy with the hair."
I mean, I'm Greek. I mean, does that work for you? Oh, no, hold on. Maybe I'll do the hair next time, maybe.
Yeah, I don't have enough hair to make that happen, so sorry. Here's something interesting: the original head of the Sphinx.
With the jackal.
The jackal. Oh yeah, no line. No. Yeah. It doesn't match. I knew a little bit of. I saw that somewhere. And trying to keep up with you.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, we kind of just go where we go.
Yeah. And Sonny's, we're finally getting disclosure.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it seems like we are more prepared, because I think people have been, I don't know, just, what do you call it, softened up or something, or conditioned.
Sure, I want to comment on exactly what you're saying. And Todd, I might not know, Todd, fully what that is. I'll check it out, though. Is if you want a populace to get comfortable with something, you put it out. Although I know for a fact, regarding something non sequitur, soccer, I know for a fact that that there was a campaign after the 1994 World Cup to get children in America more involved with soccer, and there was campaigns and money thrown at advertising agencies from donators and the Soccer Federation to include soccer balls in movies. You had the Will Ferrell movie about soccer come out around that time, and a few different movies come out. I want to say 90 somewhere. So prior to the 94 World Cup, that was in New York.
Castaways was all about a soccer ball.
Yeah, right. There was a few movies. One with the guy, Patrick Renner was on another movie, a soccer ball movie. But soccer balls in commercials, soccer balls next to the M&M, soccer balls. But they got the populace seeing soccer balls, thinking with it, getting more comfortable with it. That's what they did. They know soccer now. Soccer is a little tiny game when you look at government and bigger organizations. So Sonny will disagree, but that's okay.
That's James' sport, Sonny.
Yeah.
You just insulted my co-host.
I'm totally down, man. That's good. I'm fine. And I do. It is boring as hell sometimes, but Anyway, the point is if they did it for soccer,
right?
Then why not over several decades give you a little bit of gray alien, and then this thing, and then this movie, and then then CNN. Oh yeah, there's aliens. Well, not aliens. There's unidentified objects. We're checking them out. Like, okay, well, where are we going with this? Like a hologram, a landing, a conversation, a UN meeting with a green thing. I don't know.
Yeah, all this stuff to kind of get people. Yeah. I mean, the only I like soccer. I don't have a problem with soccer. The only bad thing was soccer moms. It's the only thing that really came out of it.
True.
That campaign just really. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So, that's very interesting, and I think that that's exactly what's happening. And it is something that has been around, probably known for a very long time, and all the stories of people. Aliens have been living here for many years already, and technology has completely advanced during a certain events that have happened throughout history. Roswell being one of them, and then suddenly all this technology hit us, the microwave and all that stuff. I mean, when you even think about the microwave as a technology, like before that, there was nothing close to that where they just improved it. You know what I mean? There wasn't like this.
No, it was like a version before that. Like it went from
it was like, hey, here it is. What does it do? It heats up all your food with microwaves. Your plate doesn't get hot. What? And it wasn't like we're experimenting with this. This version is good, but it gets the plate hot. It wasn't like that. It was like, boom, here it is, and it just happened like overnight. It seems there's a lot of technology like that actually happened.
Yeah, real fast these days, especially.
All right, so we're gonna start wrapping up here. Meanwhile, Eisenhower met with aliens only 3 times.
Yeah, we can talk about aliens and the presidents for sure. There's a bunch of Reagan and his wife.
Yeah,
he's got a story. Reagan.
Jimmy Carter also had some experiences with that, but we're finally getting a slow rollout. Yep, I agree. The whole thing about the rollout is the fear of the control, because that's always been the fear. Someone has. If they have something that they feel they can use to control the populace, then they're going to use it. And I don't know how that would happen, but I could just see the minds at work trying to figure out, okay, if we do this, everybody will chill out, and then we can do whatever we're going to do. Which what they're going to do is so boring. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The whole idea of the globalism and New World Order and all that stuff, it's just so boring. I'm like, you guys suck. You know what I mean? You guys just suck, But anyway, Jamie, so this is number 1, and we're going to continue. I want to read first Todd's. Also, you're for reclassifying after the freedom. Oh, yeah. Yep. So now they're FOs. UFO. UFO. So, thank you for doing this, Jamie. This was fun. I definitely want to continue doing these. We have to figure out like an actual time slot, because I still have the other thing that I do usually at 9:30, but I can do this maybe a little earlier in the day if that's something that. So you and I will sit down and we'll talk. If everyone enjoyed these, thank you so much. I appreciate it for tuning in. Please let us know your comments. You can also email me at johnhenrysoto@gmail.com. What were you saying?
A couple little carrots, just so you have it. Anyway, guys, I love that you're all here. Want to hear more stories from you guys too. Let you know a couple things. I've been to Area 51. I have a couple of cool stories about that trip.
I didn't want to give them everything today.
Oh, everything. It didn't know a story, but I've been there. And just encounter kind of stuff. But no more now, Sonny. But we'll do it, man.
All right, Todd. Thank you very much, Sonny. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I know we'll have more. And thanks, man. enjoying the show. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about. Not when we come back. Now I sound like I was going to commercial. When we come back, we're gonna talk more about I don't know. You and I will have to sit down. We're going to talk briefly about what we're going to bring to the table next time, and then we're going to just dive into an episode on these certain subjects. Within those subjects, you can throw in some of the stories related to the subject, and then I'll make my my unfunny comments.
Yeah, then we'll have a co-host or whatever we're going to do with that, right? Let's do this.
Yeah. I mean, if Todd wants to come on next time, we'll have him on, and then we'll pick the subject with him, and we'll knock it out.
Sure.
Good stuff. All right, Mr. James Savas, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for being on. I'll see you all next time. We don't have an exact time, but we will definitely let you know, and it'll be all over the place. So thank you. Have a good night, and God bless. Peace.
Thanks.